Good evening, everybody. Welcome to episode 7 of the Business of Track and Field. I'm Lauren Williams, the treasurer and director of Keeping It All Professional at USA Track and Field. And tonight we're doing what? WTF. I was going to say the actual words, but I'm not. What the heck is AAC? We're joined by the AAC secretary, Ann Gaffigan, and our president, Jeff Porter, this evening. Ann, would you like to give a little bio about yourself?
Sure. My name's Ann Gaffigan. I was a steeplechaser, competed in the 2004 and 2008 trials, and then retired. Have been involved in the AAC since about 2006. I was an event leader until last year when I ran for secretary. And now I'm your secretary. And thanks for having me, Lauren.
Happy you're here. Jeff?
For those who don't know, my official name is Dr. Jeff Porter. I am your current AAC chair. I served as vice chair for the previous 2 years. Competed at both the 2012 and 2016 Olympic Games.
Awesome. And I'm Lauren Williams. I'm a 4-time Olympian, 3 times in track and field, once in bobsled. So tonight we're going to be just talking AAC. We're going to keep it real cool, calm, and informal. I'm just going to throw you guys some questions. Jeff, let's start off with, what is the AAC? Like, WTF, for real?
Simply put, AAC is the governing body that helps to oversee all athlete rights, all athlete issues, as specifically as it relates to USA Track and Field. The clear difference is that AAC is not an athlete union, although our job is to ensure that we're protecting all the athlete rights. And that's a vague term, but if you think about it, anything that deals with USA competitions, athlete and prize money from the USA Track and Field, the performance bonuses, all that stuff that we have to make sure that athletes' voices are heard in every decision that's made within the organization.
Awesome. And anything you want to add about what the AAC is to you?
Sure. I just want to add a little bit about the elected leadership of the AAC. So the AAC leadership is made up of the officers, 3 of which are on your screen, also Vice Chair Wallace Spearman. And the 2 other officers are our elected representatives to the USOC. Right now that's Adam Nelson and Mashami Robinson. And then we have a group of event leaders. So we have event groups. So all of the track and field events are each in their own event group. So horizontal jumps, vertical jumps, so on and so forth. You can see the whole list on the USATF website. And each of those event groups has an elected representative, 1 male, 1 female. So their job is to keep the interests of their specific event in mind and make sure that they're represented whenever we're making decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So then let's talk a little bit about this annual meeting thing, because people get a little bit confused about AAC annual meeting. That starts with an A. I don't really know. Who is invited to the annual meeting? What is the annual meeting like?
Well, let's start the big question. What is the annual meeting? And it is exactly what it sounds like. At the end of the year, all the athletes, all the elite athletes, the event leaders, my entire leadership team, and about 80 to 90 athletes get together at the annual meeting location. This year will be in Columbus, Ohio. As a Michigan alum, that it pains me to say that. But we get together and we discuss a lot of the things that have happened throughout the year, how we've got to decisions that were made, what big legislative items are coming up that affects the athletes, whether it is a new rule that is coming down from the IAAF, whether it is a new bylaw that is instituted by the Laws and Legislation Committee. And so you think about it, it is in fact one big meeting, but at this point is one of the few times we can get a large group of athletes together to truly hear their concerns about what's going on throughout the year, what things weren't we aware of, and to really bring an educational piece to our athletes so that you can see what we've been doing all year. And it's hard to kind of see that throughout the year. Most people don't know because what we do is really behind the scenes a lot. But this is the time throughout the year we can get everybody together and say, hey, just so you know, this is everything we've done this last year. This is everything we're going to be doing for the next year, and kind of give you a brief overview while trying to make sure that you're aware of what's coming up, what's going on, and how to get your voice heard. Because I think a lot of athletes don't know they actually do have a voice. They just don't know how to go about making their voice heard. And so AAC is how they do that, and this is an opportunity for them to come, opportunity for them to listen, to learn, and to ask questions. And if you don't want to ask questions, then you won't learn. And so that's kind of what the annual meeting is all about.
Yeah, a lot of people think that it's a waste of time and nothing ever gets done, but the opposite is true. The first annual meeting that I came to was because I had been at the national meet, the outdoor championships in 2006, and up to 15 minutes before our event, the steeplechase, and the women's 1500, when we were supposed to do our rounds, they still couldn't tell us if we were going to have rounds or if we were going to do a final only 2 days later. And so what ended up happening was the steeplechase, we had our rounds and we went ahead and ran them, and that was good because we were all warmed up and ready to do them. The 1500 rounds were canceled. And so, a lot of the women were trying to figure out what they should do now that they weren't going to race for 2 days, maybe get a little workout in and that kind of thing. The track was already being used, so they had to go run on the streets and stuff. And one of the women got hit by a car. And she was okay, but she was okay in terms of, being alive, but running wise, she hurt her hip. So, and she was one of our best athletes. So, I felt like they should have been able to tell us in advance whether or not we should have been able to decide sooner when we were going to have, if we were going to have heats or not, and not make us stand there, warmed up, waiting to find out if we were going to race. So I got an email not much later saying that it was a rules year. Email from USATF saying it was a rules year, and that if you had a rules change proposal to how to submit it. And so I just followed the directions and proposed a rule change that said they would have to tell us whether or not we were having heats based on the scratches at least 24 hours in advance. And I got a call from Dexter McLeod, who was the secretary at the time, and he said, if you want this rule change to happen, you need to be at the meeting, and we have funding for a certain number of athletes, so I need you to fill out this form so you can get here. So I did that. I showed up. They made sure I was in the room when they talked about the rule, and they thought it was a perfectly reasonable proposal and voted on it, and the rule got changed, and that was it. I mean, literally it was a matter of me reading an email from USATF, following the directions, and the AAC got a hold of me and took care of the rest. So that was my introduction to the AAC. And while certainly, we look to improve on how the meeting has been done in the past so that it can be more productive, things definitely get done there. And the athletes have a lot of influence over things if they're organized properly. So the myth that we don't get anything done there is dead.
It is just that, a myth. It's a good segue, though, into the next question when you were saying about how you got an email, you filled out a form. Who can attend the annual meeting? How does that process work?
So at the end of the year, Kimberly Sims, who's our AAC liaison, will send all of our athletes that are in the tiered category an email and asking, hey, fill out an application. Do you want to go? I mean, it is literally just that simple. Now, in the last few years, we've had an overwhelming number of athletes, and priority is usually given to the world team members and tiered 1 athletes. But what ends up happening is a lot of these athletes don't want to go. Whether it's off season or on vacation or, cooling down after the champion season, and so we're trying to make sure that the people that attend the annual meeting want to be engaged. They want to understand what's going on, and they want to be active members. I mean, the challenge that we have is to ensure that if you come to annual meeting, that you're going to attend the meetings that you're assigned, that you said you're interested in going to, and that you'll take notes, being active listener, active participant. And so when you are able to come back to the larger group, the athletes, you'll be able much more educated about the issue that was discussed in your meeting and present to the athlete group. And so that's kind of where we're at. It's just a matter of filling an application. And obviously, world championship and Olympic team members get priority. And then after that, we start going down the tier system. The other thing that we're instituting this year is that, I from the last previous years, we kept attendance sheets. And so I'm trying to go through to make sure the athletes that attending the annual meeting on our behalf are actually actively engaged athletes. And so if you attend the meetings, if you signed in, then we're more than welcome to invite you back. That's what I want to make this as open and as accessible as possible, understanding that not everyone's going to be able to go, but also understanding that some athletes just, don't want to go, or if they do go, some don't want to go to meetings. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of the balance between those.
And I will say that we do have a lot of fun at the annual meeting. So we get a lot of stuff done. It is a lot of meetings, but we have a lot of fun. So every time that I've thought, I'm not going to run for re-election this year, I think, well, I'm, missing out on a really good time with a bunch of my friends. So it's, I know you don't want us to just come and only have fun, Jeff, but we also have fun. Work hard, play hard.
We also trust me. I have a great time helping Kim work out the athlete party at the end of the meeting. But you got to work hard before you can play hard.
Yep.
I think that also brings up another good point about professionalism. I know it's been one of the big values that the AAC has tried to put forth. In the last couple of years, we spent a lot of time coming up with a definition of professionalism, and we're just trying to rebrand ourselves as professional athletes. So can you talk a little bit about what professionalism means in the sense of, what that takes on and off the field, and how AAC kind of is playing a role in creating professionalism as a brand for all of these elite athletes?
Absolutely. One of the things that typically has happened in the past is if you look at AAC as a organization, as a group of athletes, we haven't presented ourselves in an effective manner a lot of the times. We haven't shown up on time to meetings. If we showed up to meetings at all, if we did show up to meetings, sometimes it was disarray. It was a whole bunch of athletes, in a room, but not understanding where they're going. And so what my leadership team has done a marvelous job of doing is to bring organization to AAC. We want to make sure that the athletes know where they're going, how they're going. I'm available all the time, but I'm available on time. I try to educate the athletes as much as possible on the issues, because what ends up happening is I would like an athlete to know what the issue is before they're going into a meeting. Historically, we haven't really done a really great job of that. And so when you're coming up to me, and professionalism really encompasses the fact of knowing where you're supposed to be, knowing what the issues are, presenting yourself in a professional manner. And that means simple things, making sure you had a shirt on, like a real shirt when you come to a meeting, closed-toe shoes, simple things when it comes to how you present yourself. Because if I stand up in front of a meeting, I'm representing not only myself, but I'm representing my entire athlete base. If you take that and narrow it down a little bit deeper into specifically as athletes carry themselves, we ensure that the athletes know if you sign a contract or you sign an agreement or you agree to something, you honor that agreement. And if you have an appearance, those kind of things. If you have an appearance, you have a public-facing event, that you show up because you've committed to it. Like you said you're going to do this. And so now it's up to us to ensure that you're actually going to do exactly what you said you're going to do. And if you couldn't, that's fine. If you can't attend in a function, that's okay, but it comes with the manner of saying upfront, ahead of time, hey, I'm sorry, I can't attend the meeting. Again, historically, what ends up happening, if you couldn't attend an event, athletes wouldn't show up. You wouldn't give notice, or they would give extremely late notice. So the organizers of whatever the community service event was or the kids event was had a very limited time to kind of find a backup. And so what we instill in all of our athletes that deal with us is that if you're going to be involved in this, if you're going to consider yourself AAC, we're going to hold everyone, even myself, to a high standard of professionalism when it comes to time with dealing with sponsors, when it comes to social media, tweeting, Instagramming, Facebook, when it comes to appearances, because all this reflects on the individual person, all this reflects on the organization as a whole. And I want the organization to be reflected in the most positive way possible. And did I miss something? Please chime in.
I just agree with everything you said. I think that sometimes people in the sport associate athletes with, with being unprofessional sometimes, and I think that they're wrong. And we want to show them that athletes are about their business and they want to know what's happening in the sport and why. They want to be informed on those decisions so that they can make their own decisions now and for their own future outside of track. And so I think it's a misconception that the athletes are by and large unprofessional. So I think we just want to kind of change the face and the connotation through the AAC.
Awesome. I think one other thing we can cover too about the annual convention, annual meeting. Sometimes it's a convention. Is what exactly are we planning on doing there this year? Like, what kind of topics will be covered? What's going to be interesting to an athlete who's never attended before? Why? What's going to be there?
Well, typically the annual meeting consists of a whole bunch of presentations and people talking at athletes. And athletes attending meetings and coming back and reporting, hopefully reporting on some of those meetings. We found that a lot of times that's fine, but in some cases the athletes want to be more engaged. They want to be a little bit more hands-on and a little bit more interactive. You know, it's like when you were in college. If somebody sit there and just lectured at you, you might have heard a small percentage of what they had to say. If you actually got involved with what was going on, you're more likely to retain more information. And so this year, I think I've charged my leadership team to do is to come up with a much more of an interactive approach to the annual meeting. I don't want people sitting out in the audience and having someone talk at them. I think one of the most powerful things we have done is you, Lauren, had an athlete panel where some of the younger athletes got a chance to ask some of the older and retired athletes about their experience dealing with things like anti-doping, life after track and field, how to manage money. These kinds of topics, I think, resonate with everybody regardless of what phase in the sport you are. So having those kind of panels, having USOC come in, which is a very big deal right now, especially considering the current climate of track and field, having USADA's high-ranking members. Last year we had the CEO of USADA come in and give us a presentation, and he was on the ground answering questions that athletes had. How to do your whereabouts, what issues we're having, how to go about mitigating some of these concerns that we have. And so these kind of things that we're going to be focusing more on the annual meeting, we're going to have like I said, have a great time. But the topics will range from financial literacy, doping control, athlete branding and marketing, public speaking, social media training to some degree. All that is going to be covered in the annual meeting this year.
Yeah, I think my biggest pet peeve at the annual meeting is when someone comes in to talk to us, and let's say they have 30 minutes of a time slot, and they talk for 25, and we have an hour's worth of questions or concerns. So hopefully we can look at, the topics and figure out, okay, this is going to be like USADA, for example. This is going to be something where we need time for people to ask their questions and have their concerns heard, and cut down on the time that someone comes in and talks at us uninterrupted. So for some of those sessions, we are going to need to set the agenda as opposed to asking them to come in with a prepared talk, and others will be different. But that's a pet peeve for me. And another thing that I think will be really important will be to make sure that when we have some really good discussions, that we don't leave that session without action items that people are going to be held accountable for, so that we don't just talk a big game and then the issue's dead. We've got to make sure we follow through with action.
Perfect. So I think this is a good time to segue into some of the resources that are available to athletes. The first one I want to talk about is Slack.
That's all you, Anna.
What is Slack?
That's all you.
How does an athlete get in touch with us if they're watching this webinar and they want to get on board, they want to learn more about what's going on, they want to have a direct way to communicate with the AAC? Tell us all about that.
Do you want me to? Should I talk about Slack?
Yes.
So Slack is an app just like Facebook or WhatsApp or anything else. And it's meant for teams, groups of people, and it's segmented into channels. So we have a USATF AAC Slack, where if you download the app and you've had an invite from us, which I'll talk about in a second, how you get an invite, and you get into your Slack account, you can see all these conversations that we have in different areas. So we have a general channel where we post everything that's important. And we have other channels where we kind of archive important things. Like we have a Business of Track and Field channel where Lauren archives the recordings of all of these webinars. We have an anti-doping channel. We have a channel for each event group so that you can talk to your event leader about important things there. And thanks, Lauren. So Lauren's pulled up kind of a screenshot of this brochure that we have that talks about Slack. So we have a form at this link that you see right here. To get invited to Slack, fill out the form at bit.ly/USATF-AAC. You can also go to the USATF website, and under Resources for Elite Athletes, there is an AAC link, and we have the link for Slack there too. So it's a form that you'll fill out, and then we will send you an invite to your email. And when you get the email invite from Slack, you'll sign up for Slack and be added to our team. So this is the number one way that we're communicating with everybody now. We've used email forever. Since I've been involved with the AAC in 2006, communication has been a huge topic. How do we do a better job at communicating? And while we do still have the national office send out emails on our behalf, we've found that not everybody is great about checking their emails, or it's easy for them to get lost. And so Slack is a place where everything that we email, we will also include in Slack. We'll include additional updates. It's a really easy way for you to get directly in touch with one of us, as if you had our phone numbers and you can direct message any of us if you have a really urgent question. And it worked really well at the annual meeting last year when we needed people to come to a certain room because we had to get a vote done and we needed a certain number of people there to vote. We were able to get a hold of everybody and get them there. So if you come to the annual meeting, you'll definitely get on it. If you're not able to come, just sign up through that link. And that's really the best way that we can stay in touch with you. You can always have it on your phone, and you don't have to sift through a bunch of emails anymore.
I mean, one of the greatest benefits about Slack is that it provides our athletes with direct access to each one of us. And so if something comes up in real time, we can actually address that issue. I mean, especially at the USA Outdoor Championships, things were happening at a relatively quick pace, and our athletes were able to contact us and just saying, hey, this is our issue. Can you guys figure something out? And so we were able to do that pretty quickly because we didn't have to wait for emails. We didn't have to rely on phone calls. So there's something that, no
one had to look up your email or phone number.
Right. So this is actually a great benefit that we found for communicating with all of our athletes.
Awesome. Are there some other resources that you guys want to talk about that are available via USA Track and Field or the AAC? I know the tier system is a question that I get frequently. People don't understand how it works, what it is. Like I'm a broke athlete and I don't have anything available to me versus, there being these 4 tiers, et cetera. So do you guys want to talk a little bit about that? Or
well, the tiered system is an invention that I think has a beneficial use. Again, if an athlete, there's 4 tiers. If you qualify to be in one of these tiers, then a lot of benefits that are available, that are not available to other athletes, are available to you. As an example, St. Vincent's is available to the athletes who need medical, like a soft tissue medical support, right? If you need that kind of training where you can't get massages or you can't get, some kind of like athletic training room kind of treatment, St. Vincent's is a resource for the athletes. There's another, USOC has different resources for athletes, whether it is medical purposes, whether it's career mentoring, scholarship applications. There's also post-collegiate scholarship applications under USA Track and Field if you want to continue your education post-collegiately. I am missing a ton of resources. A lot of the resources really are listed in the tiered system under USA Track and Field's website. But one of the things that also happens with us, an awesome benefit, is the ability to network and mentor with some of our older athletes. And so if you're a younger athlete, we're trying to, and if you're interested in it, we're trying to make sure that the older athletes, that you're able to reach them, that you're able to contact them. Some of our event leaders are, in fact, older athletes who are aging out of the sport, who are awesome resources for some of the younger athletes. And so what Lauren's showing you now is that the talent protection program, there's sport medicine coverage, there is elite athlete health insurance available, So these are a variety of different programs that are available for some of our athletes.
Yeah, I think the best way to figure out what the heck the tier system is to check it out on the website for the additional details, because, you know, understanding exactly how to qualify for one or the other tier is complicated and sometimes changes. So you want to go to the website and check out what world ranking puts you in which spot, and then go from there.
Cool.
Oh, wait. Oh, and there's also developmental funds. So, and I think we need to do a better job pushing this out. Some of the athletes don't qualify in their tier system might qualify as developmental. And if they're developmental, then there's also resources to get athletes competitions, get them some travel stipend to those competitions. So there's additional resources there. I think we just need to push that out a little bit more. And I think a lot of this information, again, is online at the USA website. But if you don't know, Slack us. Email us, call us, text us something, and we'll get you more information.
Yeah. And USOC does reach out to the athletes that qualify for the tiers.
Yes.
I think one of the biggest things I'm hearing today is communication. Communication is key. So Slack gives you an opportunity to communicate with us. But if you're a new athlete and you're trying to figure this out, and you don't feel like you have anyone you can know that, that's what the AAC is here for. We're here to be the person to get you plugged in, to figure out where you need to be, where point you in the right direction as you try to figure out what is this thing of life after college sports where I'm pursuing a professional career in track and field. But it also requires you, like we said, handling yourself as a professional. So, the old school informal saying is closed mouths don't get fed. And it's true. You've got to be able to reach out. You've got to open your mouth and let us know that you need something. And we're happy to help you. We're happy to point you in the right direction, whether you're brand new or you've been in the sport for years and you've always had this question, but you've been too ashamed or embarrassed to ask. That's what we're here for. And with that, if you guys want to give any closing remarks about, I know, parents, other people that are watching, if someone tunes into this webinar, like what's the one thing you want them to know about AAC, USA Track and Field, and what our mission, our vision are?
The one critical thing as chair, I want parents, I want the athletes to know is that if you have a concern, contact us. We're here, we're able to help you. Even if we don't know the answer, I will break down every door in track and field at the USOC to get us an answer. And I have a very good reputation of doing that. And so if there's anything that we can help you with, just let us know. Like, I'm here. No athlete has ever had a hard time contacting me. Or any person on my leadership team. My number, my email is on the website. I'm easily available all the time. Just call us and say, hey, this is the concern we're dealing with, and so could you help us? I may not be able to say yes right there, but I will get on the phone, and if I don't know, I'll find out for you. So we're here as a resource. Use us. We're here to help. We're not the enemy. We're just a group of athletes trying to make other athletes' lives a lot better.
Yeah, that's basically exactly what I was going to say. If you don't know the answer to a question or you have a suggestion or concern, even if we might not be the right people to talk to about it, we probably are. So, even if it has to do with, something not under our committee's mission, if it has to do with you and you're an athlete, it does have to do with our mission. So whether it's development funds or tier funding or relay pool or anything, I'm just, throwing out things, we can help you get the answer you need, and we'd like to help you. Yep. So, we're not trying to just take your question and forward it on to somebody. We're trying to, ask the question ourselves and copy you and get the answer. So, if you're not getting the questions answered quick enough, you probably didn't come to us first. Because Jeff is a bully, and he'll get your answer. I
will get your answer at any level, at the IAAF level, the USOC level, USA Track and Field level, NCAA level. It doesn't really matter. If you have a question, we're here to help.
Awesome. Well, if you guys have nothing else, then we'll just wrap it up for the evening.
Thank you, Lauren.
Thanks, Lauren.